Beef liver is a powerhouse for healing gut lining. It's full of vitamins and nutrients that help you rebuild. But make the mistake of adding it in too early in your healing journey could end up triggering a flare or making your symptoms a lot worse. Avoid making the biggest mistake that most UC sufferers make, and that's adding in certain foods too early in their healing journey. Here's a prime example why. So the last time I was having a flare, I was a bit sensitive, but I found that liver was great in nutrients that help support the mucosal lining, that helps repair the intestinal epithelium, which is basically the lining between your guts and your body. It also helps with energy production. It also helps with tissue repair. Can you see why I called liver a powerhouse? It is an amazing tool to use to help in your healing journey. But the problem was that as soon as I finished eating it, about 15 minutes, 30 minutes later, I started getting a bit of pressure behind my teeth, started getting behind my head, started feeling a bit fatigued, a bit drained, a bit not very good. And then a little bit later, I kind of felt even worse, like the pressure was still there. I felt even more fatigued, even more tired. And it seemed to last pretty much the whole day after I had that. So obviously, when you have something that's supposed to be really good for you, it starts to piss you off because you're like, well, I'm adding something that's supposed to help me, but it's making me feel like crap. How am I ever going to get better if I can't add in these foods, these tools that are going to help me heal my bowels, if all I do is respond badly to it? But there was a bit of a silver lining to it. It really did make me focus on how to figure out what foods are great for each phase of the healing journey. So there's more on that later on in the video. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've currently been in remission for the last 20 months using the carnivore elimination diet. And I think the problem was when I first started, I just followed all of the normal carnivore advice that there is out there. Just eat meat, you'll heal. Just eat this, you'll heal. But I think the problem with UC is they've got so many different underlying issues like SIBO, leaky gut, symptomatic inflammation, MCAS. There's all these other things that could be going on underneath the surface that just following the basic advice, which is great for some people, but when there's so many different things that basically equate to why you're having symptoms, why you're having flare-ups, why things are not agreeing with you, like histamine and things like that, that just following the basic advice of just eat meat wasn't cutting it. So then I changed to just having ruminant meat of just beef, salt and water. So basically just beef burgers that are handmade, a few occasional steaks, and then just salt and water. Then I started to feel a bit shitter, so it took a few months after that. I started to feel a bit shit, a bit drained, a bit like, okay, what's going on? I don't feel my optimal self. I ended up having some blood tests done and I found out that I was vitamin D deficient and I was folic acid deficient, which is like folate basically, which is actually very, very common for people with UC. We seem to not be able to absorb vitamin D very well and we get malnourished with B vitamins like B12. So that kind of really hit home. So thinking, well, I'm supposed to be eating the best diet possible with all these nutrients and everything else, then why am I still why am I folic acid deficient and why am I vitamin D deficient? This forced me then to go even deeper into my healing journey and try to figure out what was the best way I could heal and make sure that I wasn't getting deficient in any vitamins or minerals and make sure that I was feeling great, make sure my UC symptoms were obviously in remission, but also everything else that was underlying was getting healed at the same time. So this is when I come across, obviously, the 3 phases of healing. Now, the first phase of healing is repair. This is when you should be basically taking out all irritants that could irritate your bowels. So that's plants, fibers, carbs, sugars. You should remove all of them. It's basically just trying to repair your bowels because everything that's going through your intestines is going to irritate and cause some sort of inflammation or bleeding or whatever it is. Then you want to be adding in ruminant meats. You want to be basically just slow cooking everything and making sure that you're drinking the juices and everything like that, which are going to help heal your bowels. Stage 2 is to basically repair. This is when you can start adding in certain things like organs, fermented like dairy. Then you could add in certain things like eggs. That'll help you rebuild the damaged layers that you really need when you are healing from UC. The next stage is recovery. This is where you make everything as optimal as possible because you don't want to fall into the same trap where you think everything's going great, but in actual fact, your body's still underlying with loads of issues and then you become malnourished and you end up with like vitamin deficiencies and stuff. This is where you optimize how much fat and protein ratio you have, and this is optimized when you get the micronutrients, making sure that you're getting all the micronutrients that you need, because it's not just about macronutrients, it's about making sure you're getting the micronutrients to help you survive and make you feel amazing. You also need to take the healing very slow and strategic. One of the biggest mistakes I made is adding things in too early, so then it caused a trigger, caused a flare, or caused some sort of symptoms, so then my body was going into fight and flight mode again. So adding in things more slowly and strategic, when you can think, okay, I've been doing this for so long, I'll add this food in. Next thing you know, you might have had reactions. You think, nope, I'm not ready for that. So then you wait a little bit longer, and then you add it in again. So it's about being strategic with how you add in food. This is why I've created the 90-day regenerative UC healing protocol. It's got all the knowledge I've learned over the last 12 years of suffering with UC, and why I'm now being in remission for 20 months using the carnivore elimination diet. It literally everything that you could possibly think of, it goes into step by step, and it uses these three phases to help you heal your UC and any other underlying issues you may have. Top link in the description. Now, there is certain things that you do not want to do on your healing journey. You don't want to ignore the symptoms. If you eat something and then you get a trigger and then you've got it, don't ignore them. You can bury your head in your sand as much as you want, but it's not going to help you heal, because every time you think, oh, okay, doesn't matter about the symptoms, I'll just keep adding that in anyway. No, it's going to cause more harm than good. The next thing is to make sure you're tracking, because if you're not tracking your symptoms and how you are on a daily basis, you'll fall behind and you'll think, okay, well, I don't actually know what's triggering these symptoms. I don't know how I've been feeling the last few days. So tracking is a must. Another thing not to do is don't listen to your body. So you need to be making sure you listen to your body. Your body is trying to signal something that is going on, that is there. If you ignore it and you don't listen to your body, this is when things start to happen. This is when you start to have more flares. So obviously over the first few years of me getting UC, I didn't really listen to my body. I didn't really listen to obviously the triggers that were going off. I kind of just powered through it and thought, nope, it's okay, I'll just keep pushing through it. Not realizing that every single time I ignore my body and all these triggers that come up, I was just making things worse. And then is there any wonder why I'd go 6 months without a flare, then I'd have a flare, be on prednisolone for however long, and then I'd come off it 6 months later, I'd have another flare because I weren't listening to my body. And the last thing, what not to do, is push too quickly. Your body will only be able to heal as fast as it can heal. It doesn't matter how much you push and push, if it's not ready, it will not heal. Now, I honestly know that trial and error sucks, because I've got PTSD from it. I've had to do so many different trial and errors that when I think about obviously how I've gone about things, it kind of brings a bit of trauma. But taking it slow and strategic is the best thing that I've done to make sure that my UC is healed. Honestly, don't add in things too early because you heard that they're good for you, or the fact that you're being too impatient and thinking you're going to force yourself to heal quicker by adding things in too early, because it's not going to happen. As I've said previously, it will cause more harm than good. Do you actually want to heal your UC, or do you want to try and force your body to heal and it'll just basically fight back and you'll be in a worse state? If you really want to heal, top link in the description for the 90-day regenerative UC healing protocol. Now let me know in the comments before, have you been making this mistake of trying to add in foods too early, getting symptoms, or you've been keeping things in because they were supposed to be good, but you realized that they were actually causing you symptoms, but you kept them in anyway. If you like the content, then subscribe and like, and I'll see you again soon.